So back when I was a senior in high school, actually my graduating year, summer, I was blessed to be able to participate in the first NYCE, the Native Youth Cultural Exchange Program. And I was chosen one out of 4 youth from Hawaii, out of all of Hawaii, to participate in this. And this one was geared as a young men's leadership program. And so it was the first year that it happened in 2004. We traveled for 1 month, all these young men. So it was a cultural exchange between Native Hawaiians, the Hopi Nation, from I guess it's like northern Arizona, and the Pit River Nation. They're from northern California, Mount Shasta area. And so it was a whole month journey. And that first year, it started in Hawaii. It started in Hopi. So we all flew to Hopi, and we stayed there for about a week and a half. Then we all went to California, and then we all came to Hawaii. So it was a whole month journey throughout, in which each of us got exposed to another culture, into their communities, shared their strengths, their struggles, and each of us had to play host in our own homes. And this first year when we were in Hopi, it was really unique. It was actually just blessed timing that we were in Hopi land the same time as the Peace and Dignity runners were coming through there. Peace and Dignity run is a ceremony that started, I can't remember how long ago, but I think they do it every 4 years. And this ceremony, it's a ceremonial run that takes place in which all these northern tribes of North America get together, and they start running from Alaska, and they run south. And there's also at the same time many people from different indigenous tribes and peoples of South America gathered in Argentina, and they run up. And they run for like 3 months, and they meet together at the Panama Canal. And so that's fulfilling, it's part of fulfilling a prophecy of the unification of the eagle and the condor. So we were blessed to be in Hopi the same time as these runners were coming through there. And so we were invited to come and join. And it's my first experience in ceremonial running. Yeah, I'm a ceremonial person, but I never did running before. It was unique. But it was really neat how it began, and how this, I guess you could say in their view, is a very intertribal ceremony, because it was just all different people coming together. And they have what they had representing all these different nations were all these different staffs, like running staffs and prayer staffs, sent by all these different nations to be carried on this journey. And they run for it's thousands of miles that they're running. And it started with sunrise prayers, and I remember standing there, and we offered our pule, and you just heard all these different songs from these different people, and it was beautiful. And then we all went in, and we all selected a staff to run with that day, and then we all gathered at a sacred spring that is right next to, as much as it is a sacred spring, it is the village spring, and that's where in Monkapi, the village of Monkapi, is where we started, and we all took a sip of the water there. And then the first run, the run that got us through the village and out into the, pretty much out into the desert, we all run together. And then from there we splinter off into a relay style. But whenever we came over this hill, the road went white. And the Hopi people, they pray with what they call homa. And homa it's white cornmeal grounded down from the white corn, and they pray with that. So they'll give their prayers and they cast that. The road was white with homa, and all the kupuna were all on the sides of the road, and we just came running through it. They just gave their kahea and their prayers, and so they sent their prayers with us. And in that style, what they do is they call it pinching the earth, and basically it's not necessary that one staff gets passed on and on, like relay that style, but it was that every inch of the journey had to be tracked. So they would just drop people off, and people just have to run a section. So you had my section, this section. So every bit of land was traversed with prayer. And in that day, we covered 80-something miles from the village of Monkapi to Wanasapi, which is almost in the southern side of the reservation, the Hopi reservation. And it was just such a powerful thing for me. I remember, having to run, and I was in, they were told us, we pray for the earth, you pray for your people, you pray for the world. And so we were running, and okay, it's hot. It's high desert there. I swear my brain's boiling. And you see the van over there. It's like, come closer. But it's, for myself as a practitioner of hula, that was like the same ritualistic physical sacrifice where you push yourself to that exhaustion physically. And so it's something happening in the physical realm that how do you say, kind of feeds into your spiritual. And so I did a section and then drive up ahead and drop us off to another section. And each one I noticed I was able to run a little bit more. I was running a little bit more. And I'm not a runner, as you can see. But was able to still traverse that. It was such a powerful thing. And it was an honor to be able to run with them that year. And then after Hopi, we actually, our whole group, we journeyed up to the Pit River country, and they have a run ceremony there. They do there too. They call it the ancestral run. And my first year participating in that, it's a little different up there. They have they run between their two sacred mountains, Ya'aku and Atichina, which we know as Mount Shasta and Mount Lassen. And all that land in between, that's Pit River Nation. And so we pulled up to this place in the dark. It was already nighttime, and there was just one fire and a bunch of Indians, a bunch of locals just hanging out and throwing, breakfast bars and stuff. And just go to sleep. We got a ceremony in the morning, and it was really just raw like that. And lay out your blanket and sleep. And the next morning, you can hear them calling, "Up, everybody, get to the fire! Time to get ready." Just raw like that, and we all came up there, and we all in our just seeing the glow on the fire of everyone's face, and everybody, you had elders, you had little kids, you had parents, adults, teenagers, everybody. It was a whole real community, family, and they all gave their prayers, and then right when the sun came up, they gave the last prayers, and they acknowledged everybody. You could actually see everybody now, and then they said, start our prayers now, and they have one staff, and they said, let's go, whoa! And the staff took off, and from everybody loaded up in the cars, and we just went on out. And every time we passed that staff, there was so much cheering to encourage that person. And they had their words, I don't remember. But just that feeding to that prayer, and they began dropping us all off. So we all got dropped off in intervals. So some people were like, give me a quarter mile. So we drive up ahead, drop off a couple people together, the kids and their parents, and some elders, and they're like, give me 20 yards. And they're all whatever they could do. And we sit there and we wait, long time sometimes, we're just hanging out, talking story with somebody new and checking out the environment, and all of a sudden you can hear, oh, they do their, hey. You hear it way off in the distance, like, oh, it's coming. And then when they get there, they you just hear all these encouraging words, and just encouraging everybody, and they pass that staff, and you take it, and you're carrying that prayer, and we're given that protocol, that staff, and you're carrying the prayers, and you're accumulating prayer for everybody, praying for the health of the land, the health of the people, the health of the world. And we continue, and the main thing is that the staff don't stop. The prayer has to keep going. And so as it gets dropped off, the cars double back, and they pick everybody up from the back, and they go up ahead, kind of like a leapfrog kind of a thing. And they just keep dropping off. And the first day we cover about a little over 70 miles. And we made it all the way to a place called Bernie Falls. And we were hosted there by the Pit River Casino. Don't speak in the casino. But it was neat though, but they provided, there was a big meal, a big feast, and they had their fire and storytelling and dances and prayer, and everybody came out. And then you saw even more elders and people come to that in the evening. And same thing the next morning. The sun rose, we gave our prayers, and then that first person took the honor of taking the first run. Went on off, everybody loaded up, started getting up ahead, and we got to the bottom of Mount Lassen at around 2 o'clock. We found they have a ritual there. There's a huge stone over there, and they all take their picture. Everybody gets their running shirt that they, and they take their picture, and you can hear the drums going up in the forest. The same time, the night before, the elders and the people, they get together, they start a sacred fire at both ends. So as when we left that sacred fire at the bottom of Mount Shasta, someone stays there to maintain that fire. And other people had gone ahead to Mount Lassen, to the campground area, and they're preparing the ceremonial grounds there. So as, maybe 150, 200 of us start making our way up to the forest, you hear the drumming, you can hear the singers up there. And then we just come into just burst out of they tell us, okay, make sure, big cheers, you come out. And we just burst out of the forest, and they give in their hollers and their calls, and we run the whole camp 4 times. If you can't run the whole camp, you go into the sacred circle, you walk the fire 4 times. And everyone just comes back in together. It's like, we just completed this. We just crossed over 130 miles of backcountry in a day and a half with all these people. And it's like, it's not all these fit runners, it's, well, you have fit runners, and you have elders, you have children, you just have, your aunties, your uncles, and everybody was able to contribute to that prayer. And it was such a powerful thing, I know, for me. And that was back when I was 18 years old. First time getting to participate in this ceremony. And that whole night they offered prayers and different dances, and different people came up and shared. And it was just enriching. And I did that I think I participated about 3 years straight with that cultural exchange program. And then because of funding, the program kind of had to go into hibernation for a little while. And then, not this past summer, but the summer before, we were able to do the exchange again. And this time when we got back up to Pit River country again and we were ready to do the run, they shared with us the story of the run. Well, they shared with us before that this run that they did was it was a prayer to unify the people, and they run over their sacred lands based upon and connected to one of their stories of creation. And in their story of creation is after the Creator had created the world, but it was still, it was still real soft, the land was fresh. There was a dispute between the bear and the mountain lion. And they were arguing over who was more powerful, who was stronger or faster. And so the Creator said, well, we'll have a race. You start from here, and the first one to get to Atichina is the winner. And so they got ready, and then when they took off, they say the mountain lion, he was so quick, so agile, but his fast feet just made him slip, and as he slipped and slid all these different directions, he pushed up the mud and pushed up here, and you're just like pushing, and it's just like a cat on ice, just whip. And the bear was so big and so powerful that with each step he sunk deep into the earth, and he ripped up the ground at every step. And these two collaborating their way across, they end up reaching Atichina at the same time. And so they were both elevated as equals in power. But what was left behind is Pit River country. So that's why their lands are all these valleys, and it's this beautiful mountain range. So over there, we're not running the main highways. Up there, we run through these back roads, and we're just going up and down through these beautiful forests and valleys, and around by the lakes and the rivers. And if you get to wait long enough for the staff, you can jump in the river. I had an interesting experience myself in which, I got dropped off, I'm hanging out, and I started, the blackberries. I was like, blackberries, wow. And I started thinking, something eats blackberries. And it sure as hell, if I didn't see a bear print and bear doodles, I'm walking. So whoever was before me had to run extra far because I walked. But it was something, that experience. But a lot of times, sometimes we got off and I hung out with myself. Sometimes we hang out with some people. But just that whole experience, was such a fulfilling. It was enriching, very, very enriching. So this year, or that past year when I went, was the first time I heard the stories of the origin of that run. I heard the story of the bear and the mountain lion, so I thought for many years that I was continuing this ancient ceremony with them. Well, it turns out it's not. I heard the story this year, or that just the other year, that this ceremony was only 20 years old. That ceremony was just created a couple of decades before that, and it was created by the elders of the tribe. And up there, Pit River country, they're very similar story to a lot of Native American tribes, as we know. Northern California is some of the worst Indian history, if you know it. Up until the 1920s, the state of California would pay people to go up there and kill the Indians. Because they already dealt with all the Plains guys. By the time they got to California, they're like, we're not going to deal with treaties and stuff with these guys.